everybody? It's your boy Corbin, the Serpent Tongue Skipwith, and I'm here with special guest
Andrew W. Boss.
Thank you for taking time out to be on this interview with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to start from the beginning. Where did you grow up, and how big was the music scene growing up?
I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and we had a big underground music scene. There's a movie that was made about it called SLC Punk, and that was about the punk scene. But we also had a big metal scene and things like that. That was out of the '90s. So in the '90s, it was a lot of punk and grunge and metal, and everybody was kind of competing for all the different things that were going. And my older brother was in a band, and so I got to watch his band play and stuff like that as I was like getting older. So it was a pretty good music scene here.
Yeah. Was there a lot of Mormons around where you were?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, lots of Mormons.
Yeah, so raised a Mormon, so I hear Salt Lake City, Utah is the place to go.
Hold on, you were raised Mormon?
Yeah.
Oh wow, in Australia, huh?
Yeah. So my dad's family were Mormon, and then my mom was converted. Yeah. So, but then when I was so they still go to church every Sunday. I don't, but the whole family's still very heavy into it.
Yeah, my sisters still go to church every Sunday, and yeah, so we get a lot of that here. It's nice. They're very nice people. I like most of them very much. Yeah.
Yeah. Nah, yeah. Like I always hear about it, Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah. I hear it all the way here, and I'm like, if you're a Mormon, that must be the place to be.
Yeah, it is for sure.
Yeah. So who was your earliest like inspirations in music?
I I I don't know if I've really nailed that down. I had a lot of influences in music in different areas. So at the same time that I was getting into music, my older sisters were listening to Beastie Boys and Run DMC and Digital Underground, and my oldest brother was listening to Metallica and Megadeth and Korn and stuff like that. And then my dad listened to old country music and CCR, and my mom listened to old 50s and 60s Motown. And so I just grew up liking all of it. And so I think my biggest influences growing up were probably like Tupac and Korn. And then I ended up somewhere in the middle.
Two great artists, band and artists. So good choice.
Yeah.
So what year or when did you start to get serious about being an artist?
I knew that I wanted to when I was younger. When I was little, I played around in high school with being in a band with my buddies and trying to play the talent show and, regular high school bullshit like that. And then I moved to Phoenix with my ex-wife, and I tried to be in a band in Phoenix. And that's when I wanted to okay, I should really try and do this. But I didn't really like this project. I started in 2016, and I would say that's when I really decided I'm going to do this as well as I can, and then we'll see where it goes.
Cool. So I know that so if I'm correct, your first album came out Invincible in 2017, correct?
Yeah.
So can you tell me anything about the music, about any music you may have released prior to this? Were there any demos or mixtapes or?
Yeah, there was a lot. I had a bunch of rap songs that I recorded and put out places, and shit that I wouldn't like people to listen to, like all the when you're first starting and it's just trash. And then I had a couple songs that I did with my brother's band in Phoenix, And then I had a band in Salt Lake that we played around for a few years before this band. And we did a handful of albums too that we like self-recorded and did all that shit. But they weren't really serious. They didn't really want to, take that next step that I wanted to. And so that's why I say, like, when I started this project is when I really got serious. Because a lot of people say that they want to tour, say that they want to do things, but then when the opportunity is in their face, they kind of like, oh, well, I wasn't really serious. I don't, I got a job. I can't leave for a month and a half. I can't, you know what I mean? And so when I started this project, I was just like, I want to go tour with bands that I like, and I want my brothers in my band so we can tour together.
Yeah.
And we'll just push this as far as we can go.
Yeah. No, that's really cool, because, I mean, I can, obviously I'm not an artist or a band member, but like I can imagine the struggle it must like when you think you're surrounded by like-minded people, and then when it comes down to the action part, it's like, oh yeah, it's like, it's real easy to talk about what you want to do, but then once it gets to it, it's like, it's kind of cliche at this point, but it's true. It's like once it gets to the action, you're like, oh shit, this happens, or I need to do this, I can't do this. So
yeah, and it does happen to a lot of people, and that's okay. Some people like to live in their comfortable life and not go out on a limb, and it's hard to go to a city that's fucking 2,000 miles away and play for people that have no idea who you are. That's kind of scary, but it's also the most fun too, because if they like you and you're like in New York City or somewhere like that, and people are singing your song that you've never met before, and you're just like, how the fuck do you know this song? How is this working? And so the reward is really good, but the risk is very high, and some people can't handle the actual risk. Like, I've had investors that are like, oh yeah, well, they're like buddies of mine, really, who think that they're investors, and then they're like, oh yeah, if you can get this big tour, I'll pay for it. And so I'll call back like a week later, hey, we got an opening spot, it's gonna cost this much, and we need the bus, and we need all this shit. And they're like, oh well, you see, the way that my money works is I gotta go, and I gotta sign it, and I gotta go to the bank, and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, well, what the fuck, dude? You told me to do this, and I went and did it, and now you're like, well, what the fuck? Did you just think that I wasn't gonna do anything, and that I was just talking out my ass? And that, some people get scared when big opportunities show up, and then other people just go for it.
Yeah, well, I know from the only thing I can use to relate to that is like when I'm doing interviews, like this is like my 24th, 25th now or something. But my first one, the first 10, and I guess all of them, it's always nerve-wracking being being live with someone new and having to kind of formulate a cohesive interview, making sure you're always thinking of the question, making sure you're always making it flow well. And it's like, it's always nerve-wracking for me, someone new. It's like, I got to, be like, all right, it's nerve-wracking, but at the end of it, I'll get an amazing interview out of it. And that's what matters. So I got to just push through the fear, the anxiety. It's like, all right, just do it.
Yeah.
Get it. So that's the best I can relate.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So, okay, going in, fast forward again to the Invincible. How long did that album take for you to release? As like everything from the lyrics, production, everything.
Well, I started recording that in 2016, and it took around a year to put the album together. And that one was very that one was transitioning songs that I had wrote from the band that I was running prior. So like half of those songs I remade and re-record and put on that album, and then I had half of the songs that I wrote brand new for the album. Yep. And it took me about a year, just because of the process, the way that I do things and how we record, and then we send everything out to Massachusetts to my producer, and he mixes and masters, and we discuss everything and make changes, and it's a good process, but my first two albums were definitely experimental on how I wanted to do things. And then my third album was, okay, I know how I want to do things, and this is what I'm doing now. And so on the Arrival, it really solidified. And I think you can tell that when you listen to the three albums, you can tell that the third album is much more well polished, you know.
To me, when I was listening to the first album, the main thing I came away with, as far as a way to describe it, it sounded, out of the three, it sounded the most new metal inspired.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that rings true to you and how you feel, but to me, I just felt a strong new metal connection with the way your flows and the instrumentation.
Yeah, I definitely just describe myself as a new metal singer.
Yeah.
And it's a new metal band, or like rap rock metal, or something like that.
Yeah. I still enjoy it, nonetheless. It's just, obviously when I came out of it, I was like, oh, this feels new metal to me. So it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so fast forwarding again, we have 2019 Left Alone, so for that one, it's really interesting because to me, the first thing I noticed was how much more diverse in sound it was compared to the first album. And I'm like, because I heard influences of country, rock, more guitars, and it's like, as you just described, you're probably doing more of a feeling out process, trying to find what you found in your third album. So tell me, because the one thing I always forget about, specifically, let's just say rap albums, it's like when someone drops their first album, they could have spent 20 years preparing the lyrics for that. Who knows how long it took them? But then for their discography afterwards, it's fresh lyrics, presumably. It's fresh lyrics. So like, how long? So like, was this a harder album to write for? Was there any new difficulties with the second album or a new process?
Yeah, the second album was a lot more experimenting on collaborating people around me and people I wanted to work with, especially with the mixing and mastering side of things. 'Cause there's a few songs on there that were mixed and mastered by other people, and the writing process was quite different. The first album, Home, has more of or the first song, Home, has more of a country vibe to it, just because that's kind of how the song ended up, just moving towards that instead of a rock song. And at the time, Royal Bliss was doing a little more of a country rock kind of thing. And so that one was more of filling out all the problems that I had now that I had my own band and doing a second album and trying to work through all of the kinks. And so Left Alone, kind of, I would describe it as like if you had like 4 trucks and you were taking all the parts off 3 of them to make one truck. Cool. That's kind of what I did on the second album. And so the third album, I had nailed down all the stuff that I wanted to do and was like, okay, this is how I want to do my album. This is how we're going to record. This is my writing process. Every song was done with Jim, my producer, and me and him hashed out like everything on the final versions of all the songs. And I think going through the first album and the second album really solidified how I like to write and how I like to create things. And all the new songs that I have now for the next album that's going to come out, I think takes that up like another step up the ladder. So it takes like the Arrival and just gives it a bunch of steroids, kind of. It's turning out well, yeah.
I find that, talking about your process and how, hey, obviously we talked about your third album, how you've nailed stuff out, and then obviously I'm excited for your next one to see where it goes from there. But it's interesting because like I feel like in this new generation of music, people are afraid, like artists, I feel like I feel like they're afraid to fail. They're afraid to experiment. They're afraid to take that time. I feel like artists these days have this weird sense of reality where they're like, oh, my first album has to be perfect. My first album, I got to make it's just like you need that learning curve. I think everyone needs time. They need not to fail necessarily because I enjoyed your 2 hours, but it's like you need time to experiment and to see really what you like and what you don't like. And I think it's really cool how obviously with the first 2 albums they have different sounds and different sound signatures to them. And then obviously on this third one, which I wrote down in my notes, like to me it felt like a clarification album. To me, this felt like you going, you know what, fuck the world, I'm me, and you're going to respect me and my talent. And it's like I felt that on that album.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff when I was doing like promotion and stuff. A lot of people who were saying that I rapped too much and I needed to do more rock. And the radio stations were saying that like my single was too rapish, whatever the fuck that means. And there's too much rap, and you need to try and be more like Chester or more like Lejeune from Seven Dust and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I'm not trying to be anybody here. I'm just trying to make an album that I want to listen to, that I would want to jam out. And I think on the third one, I had that attitude and like a plan on what I wanted the album to sound like. And I feel like I really like came through and that it turned out really well. I like The Arrival a lot. The other two, I just see all the mistakes in it. But yeah, I think that's kind of a metaphor for life, is you gotta fucking grow up and not really just like, I think you have to grow up from your mistakes, not really like just forget about them and move on. You need to remember them, but move on and make things as good as you can make them. I feel like I made the Arrival as good as I could have made it.
Yeah. It's interesting, and this is a bit of a side talk, but a side point. But it's just like, as we're talking about this, it made me think about it. Apparently, I don't know if this is true, but I saw in a news report like years ago that apparently producer Dr. Dre, famous producer, apparently he listens to more shit he hates than he likes to make sure not what to make. So he understands what he shouldn't be going for. And I think that's really funny, like, because it's like, yeah, we always try to be the best version of ourselves, and some people unfortunately will give in to like all the pressures that you face. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll be more rock, I'll be more like this guy. But thankfully, you have the pride and you have the sense of self-worth. Like, no, I'm going to be me. Fuck what you want me to be, and I really appreciate them.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I do. I mean, I know artists who are trying really hard to make an album that they can promote, and it just seems to me like their heart isn't in it. And I was just like, I'm going to make an album that I really love, and if people like it, they like it, and if they don't, then they fucking don't. But I like it. And I think if a lot of more musicians could figure out, because there's a lot more musicians out there that are way more talented than me, that are trying really hard to make a commercial album. And if they would just sit back and make something that they really, really care about instead of what they think is going to get listened to, they could really see like their full potential in that, and then put it out to the world and see who likes it. People are going to like it. People like good, talented musicians. They just do. And I don't know. It's sad to me to see people wasting. I feel like it's wasting time worrying about whether or not your song is going to play on the radio or not, or how commercial it is, or whatever. And I don't know. That's just not me. I appreciate anybody who's hustling in the music industry for sure, because it's fucking hard industry, but that's not what I want to do.
And yeah, like I said, I respect anyone who stands true to themselves. It's like, for better or for worse, I'm going to be me. And like if you're not going to be yourself, it's like you're going to be caught out real quick. I feel like it's like actually, I
Yeah.
was talking to Dana like just then, and like saying how like you can't fake. I'm sorry, yeah, you can't fake passion. You can't
Yeah.
fake. It's like you look at someone and you can tell if they're heart into it or it's not. It's not something you can fake. I feel.
Yeah, I think so too. And
Yeah,
especially the other musicians, I feel like other musicians are like, yeah, I know what you're doing. I know what you're trying to do.
yeah,
But yeah, I feel like, you know, not everybody's gonna like my album, and there are a lot of bands that I feel like are more talented than me, but I feel like for my abilities and what I wanted to do, I nailed exactly what I was trying to do with the Arrival. And so I'm proud of that for sure.
yeah. You definitely should be. Before I go on to the next question, this is the one question I've been wanting to ask you for like since Dana gave me your music, and it's about your name because I'm curious. Like, are you familiar with the artist Andrew WK?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Your name sounds Andrew W. Boss. When I was like, hey, that's I don't know. It just the similarities made me laugh.
Yeah, I get that a lot. I yeah, Andrew W. Boss is my name. And so I talked to a lawyer and I was like, well, what if I do just my name is the band name? Like it can, because there's other Andrew Bosses that do music and stuff. And he was like, well, they can't sue you because it's your name. So if you just run with it, like, what are they going to do? And so I said, okay, well, then we'll just stick with that because I know I can't get sued over it
Yeah,
instead of trying to come up with some other name. But I think it would be cool just once to do like a festival or something with Andrew WK.
yeah.
Just
Just the
once, at
name
least
alone
once.
would be
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Be sweet.
Yeah, it's the one question I've been want to ask you. Like, if you're familiar with his work, is the name.
Yeah.
So, all right. Is there any artist or band right now, a modern day artist or band that's like blowing you away, mainstream or otherwise?
Um, I really like the Dropout Kings. I like Wage War is really good. Um, I have a playlist that I made on Spotify with a bunch of the bands that I listen to, and it's a new metal, like rap metal playlist, and so there's a bunch of new bands that I like. Hyro the Hero, Fire from the Gods. I like From Ashes to New. Um, yeah, I think Wage War is probably my favorite band right now, like getting into their stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that I've been trying to check out and listen to and see what I like and see what I don't like. Just cool about that Spotify playlist because they have a lot of different shit you can find on there. And then I
Yeah,
kind of I like to dive into albums. So if I find a band that I like, then I'll go and listen to like their last album that they put out.
yeah, I'm the same. I'm an album guy.
Yeah, I like the albums.
Yeah. To me, it's like this might be a harsh take, I don't know, but it's like if you can't formulate a cohesive good album, then I don't really respect you as an artist. It's like it's like you should like because singles are fine, but like to me, it's important to have a good album.
Yeah, me too. I really like the album. I really like putting together an album. And I know that the singles is everything that everybody's doing right now, but I just have always liked to get the album, especially when you go to the band's concert and you see them and you get the album from the band there, and then you go home and you listen to it. And most of the times, my favorite song ends up being a song that I found on the album that wasn't on the radio or wasn't, it's that deep cut, and that's the fun about the albums is you find all those hidden gems like just going through.
Yeah. I still remember when I was like teenage years, my dad got me the Guns N' Roses Greatest Hits for Christmas CD, and I popped it in, and obviously that led me to being into Guns N' Roses. And when I studied their discography, I discovered the song Night Train on their debut album, Appetite for Destruction. And I remember feeling such betrayal. I was like, the Greatest Hits album didn't even have the song on here. And it's the best song of one of the best songs of the album. So since then, I've been focused on albums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. All my favorite bands are like that, where I found my favorite songs on their album.
Yeah. It's album. I'm glad I get to find another album person.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So the final question I have, it's the question I ask everybody, and it's really interesting to see everyone's reactions. It's, what's the most underrated and overrated album of all time?
Album? Album is hard. I would say the most overrated band of all time would be Tool. Probably most overrated band of all time. I'd say the most underrated band of all time would probably be Seven Dust. And they do well, but they should be playing stadiums. Like, that band is so fucking good. And their album Seasons, I don't know. I'm a big Seven Dust fan, so that's really like asking me, what band do you not like and what band do you really like, you know?
Yeah.
Because Tool is a very talented band. They're just not, I don't really like to listen to them. They're not really my thing. I felt the same way about Nirvana. Like, Nirvana, I feel like, is a super overrated band. I don't know about albums. I would say Seven Dust Seasons is probably the most underrated album of all time. Like, that album should have sold like 20 million copies. Every song on it's fucking ridiculously good. So I don't know. Are you a Seven Dust fan?
Never heard of them.
Seven Dust? Yeah, write that down. It's one word. Sevendust.
So what album do you recommend? I'll start with
Seasons.
Seasons.
Oh, yeah. Seasons.
Found it. Season. Right. Yep. Found it. Cool. I'll listen to that today.
Yeah. Check that album out and then tell me if you think I'm crazy or not.
I definitely will. Yeah, it's always good to discover a new band.
Yeah, they're amazing.
I'm not going to agree with your opinion on Tool, but hey, everyone's different.
Are you a Tool fan?
I wouldn't say that I'm a fanboy, but I do love. To me, yeah, their version of prog metal is just, to me, really psychedelic. It's very like just out of this world to me. And obviously, some people call it dragged out and boring. Some people, which is a fair enough point if you're not a fan of them. But yeah, I've always been a fan.
I call them a new Pink Floyd.
That's fair.
They're definitely like I get that psychedelic vibe to them too. But I'm also not a big Pink Floyd fan. So I just have with Tool, there's a lot of my friends that are big Tool fans. So I like to say that to be snarky to them, but I also like they are selling $300 tickets to their shows, and I'm just like, how in the fuck are these guys getting $300? But like I said, anybody that hustles like they do in the music industry, I respect that. But there's a lot of bands that are really popular that I don't really listen to all the time. I like the bands that are unusual in their music and different, like Korn and Mudvayne and Head PE and Nonpoint, and like I like those types of bands. So it's definitely an opinion, more of a, because I definitely would never say that Tool sucks, because I don't think they suck. It's just not a band that I really like that much. To clarify.
Yeah. Well, before we end this up, have you heard of the band Death Grips?
Death Grips?
Yeah.
No.
That's a recommendation for you because you said that you like unusual types of music. They are, to me, the pinnacle of unusual. Like, check out their mixtape Ex-Military. one word, which I think is on YouTube. I don't think it's on streaming service. But I'll send you on WhatsApp. I'll send you the screenshot.
Yeah.
Cover. But that album, to this day, it came out 2010, I think, and to this day, it still blows my mind. Like, it's just so, they're like they're an experimental hip hop trio. But
Okay.
yeah, I've never heard anything like them since. And yeah, they dabble in everything. So you just have to see, if some people think it's too much, they can't handle it, and
Yeah.
they're wild, and you'll see what I mean when you listen to it. But yeah, so if you like experimental or unique, unusual music, they're the kings of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, cool. So I'll check mine out. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. Yeah, I was really looking forward to talking to you, and I'm happy we were able to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll send this to you once it's all published.
All right, man. You take it easy.
All right, have a good one.
Okay, bye.